First off, I just want to tell everyone who's listening that today is heavy. All right, today this interview right here is a note-taking session. Really, grab your notepad, grab a pen, because the man here is going to deliver fire.
But Jason, what if I don't and I fuck up and you just told him to grab a notepad for nothing? Then it was all for naught.
Well, they learn what not to do.
That's
right?
true.
It's really good. Still a good experience.
Touche, man. Touche.
Today's I'm going to grow my business type of day after you listen to this. Some of you didn't want to listen to me when I preached how important attention is, especially during today's time, and showed you how we've taken clients from seven figures, even during a pandemic. So I felt the need to bring in a big gun here and a heavyweight to kind of back me up. A guy, this is going to be a no fluff zone, a man who tells you exactly how it is, which I love, and tells you what you need to hear versus what you want to hear. I want to talk about grabbing attention. I want to talk about getting in front of people. We're talking about hundreds of millions of views on his content. If you want to bring in more customers, if you want more clients and create the right content, I'm bringing you a legend. I'm not saying this to hype him up or gas him up. He doesn't need any of that.
I appreciate it, though. Yeah, I'm like, yo, we can just keep going with the intro. Let it roll.
I know you don't need any of that, but because I just love the impact of your no bullshit content and your approach, because I'm the exact same way. So please welcome to the show, my man, Mr. Billy Jean Shaw. Thank you so much, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me. And by the way, y'all, if I'm looking crazy down here, it's because my cam is set up. I'm actually looking directly at Jason, but the cam is up there. So if I'm looking crazy over here, it's because I'm literally looking that direction. So yeah, man, let's roll.
Perfect. Let's jump into here. Let's begin with how you became the Billy Jean that you are right now, right? The one that we see today. I mean, lots of people listening or watching may not know.
I bought it. I bought it on me. I bought it. I bought it. I mean, that's the whole game. You know, being well known is so manufactured. It's crazy. It's literally math. You know, so for example, think about the most famous people. You can name 5 famous people. It doesn't matter anything.
Billy Jean.
Well, I'm not even in that. But real famous people, right?
Obama, Trump.
Cool. Take Obama and Trump. Okay. And think about how people know them. Well, you know them because they've been broadcasted on television. We cannot count how many times, right? And then in addition to them, every single time that there's millions of dollars spent to advertise them being broadcasted on television, then there's other sites that talk about what happened on their broadcast that would charge millions of dollars to have you present their content. That is then, more millions of dollars because you get the people talking about them in the kitchen, etc. You know, if you had to pay money to have people discuss you in the kitchen, think about how much money that would cost. If you take famous people like Michael Jordan, think about every single basketball game Kobe Bryant plays. There's millions of dollars, tens of millions of dollars to promote that single game, or millions of dollars for that single game, and their name is being mentioned every time. And then Sports Illustrated decides to put them on the cover. Then they spend millions of dollars on that person's name, right? Like, it's all money. It's money. Now, sometimes people can trade other things that aren't money, and that's how they get it. But people don't realize is when someone's well known or they're famous, it's because somebody paid for it. Now, you may not have had to pay for it. Like Kobe wasn't paying that. The NBA paid it and they had $1 billion. But it's always being paid for. Artists that you love, they got paid for. The industry, like the labels they're signed to, paid for them to get out there, to get the radios to promote them. Then people are like, well, what about social media? YouTube owns for that. They're paying for that. They're giving you space on their traffic. Like, it all costs money. It's just somebody else is paying the bill. But see, what people don't realize, the thing is that when you're paying the bill, you get the control. Until then, you're just a victim to whatever they say or do, and you truly don't have your distribution. So many people say, I don't ever want to pay for advertising. Well, that's why you are a puppet to whoever is. That's why if a basketball player does stop playing in the NBA, they lose everything, because they now have no more reach. So when you're paying and it's that mutual relationship, that's when everything goes good. And so I always laugh, like, how do people know me? Because my ads have been seen seen 700 million times plus, and I paid for every single one of them. But the thing is I made a lot more than what I spent. So did I pay or did I get paid to do it? So that's the kind of mind fuck that I'll put out there to start with. is a little rant.
Oh, we're starting fast. Love it.
We just get right in there.
We're going great. All right, so let's take a step back for a second. This entrepreneurial journey that you started, how'd you realize you were an entrepreneur? How'd this passion for marketing start?
I needed to make money, like there was no like passion for marketing, dude. I had a passion for people and sales and understanding people and things like that, but I needed to make money. I fell in love with this thing called Facebook ads at a time, 10, 12 years ago where nobody was using it. Very few people understood it. And I fell in love with it. And I got really nerdy about analytics and things like that. But there was no passion. The passion was I lived in my parents' house. I move out. That was my passion, and it wasn't to help people. I love when people, I just really I didn't want to help. I wanted to help myself. I wanted to go party. I wanted to go to the club. I wanted to pop bottles. I wanted to hang out with models. Like I wanted to do all that's what was my motivation. Now the impact, inspiration, those are things that are core to me now. But that wasn't the same Billie Jean 10, 12 years ago. 10, 12 years ago, I was just trying to figure out how to make it and not embarrass myself. That was it.
Do you guys see what I mean by like no fluff? He's not bullshitting with like, I had this passion or this love.
Yeah, everybody lies, man. Everybody lies. Like we all have like, sure. Like, and I just felt like our brand continues to grow because I get credit for telling the truth. Like how ridiculous is that? Like I go interviews and people are like, man, he's so real. I'm like, I get credit for telling the truth. Like, does that just mean everyone else is lying? You know what I mean? Like, and so I think it's just a funny time, and I encourage everybody to like being yourself is the only thing that pays, And
we'll do a plug quickly for your podcast here. Like Billie Jean offends the internet. Like, what was the motive behind that? Was that just like, hey, I'm just going to go even deeper? Like, how much truth telling can I possibly do?
I mean, kind of. I mean, I feel like the more truths I share about me, the deeper connection I get with my audience, and then they buy more stuff, and I help them, and it's a mutual trade there. But it was also to. What I noticed is that what people have most affinities to, things that they fall in love with, are things that they use daily, right? Like I'm obsessed with this thing because I use it multiple times a day. Like I love my Netflix membership. People use it every single day. I love my Xbox. I use it every single day. I love my daughter, every single day. Like it's a daily thing. And so when I created the podcast, I was like, well, I'm not having any content where I can be in front of people daily so we can have that type of relationship and I can become a habit, not just something they love. I want to become a habit. And so to me, it was like, all right, let's put out a podcast Monday to Friday, quick bangers, 5-10 minutes, boom, get in somebody's head, make them, hey, I only start off my morning with Billie Jean. If I can put them in there, then we have a relationship for life as long as I deliver on my side, which is be entertaining and educational. So that's what it was. And then what do I talk about for that much, right? And then I made it bigger than me is trending searches. We just see what's trending on Google and we talk about it. So I had a business episode about Adele. Adele was the most trending subject in the world because she lost weight. And so I talked about how that parlays into business. So I take mainstream trending topics, use the leverage of people searching for that, and then I bring it back to the business lesson, the parable, So that's it.
So in a world that especially our world, the marketing world, where there's gurus and 18,000 ROAS screenshots being posted and a new course dropping, you said something super important, that you got attention, but you're also helping the people.
100%.
What's going on in your mind with the marketing industry? I just want to touch on this really quickly with the gurus and the courses and what's going on.
Oh, bro, I hate it. I like to stay far away from it. Like the people I look up to is the chef Gordon Ramsay. The way he's developed his TV shows and got in networks, that's where our heads are at. Like that's all we care about. We don't even talk about that other shit. Like went through it, over this last decade and came through it, made a lot of good connections from it and spoke on a lot of dope stages and made some really great friends, etc. Some of our mutual ones we discussed before the podcast. And I want nothing to do with it. Even when we put out our stuff, we consistently align with education as opposed to courses. Like I hate the whole industry and I don't with it. Like I don't even look that way. I don't care about it. Nothing.
Well, do you think people call you a guru? Like, how do you deal with the guru?
I say I'm not a guru. I'm just a guy who's good at selling online, and I know marketing sells really well. And I'll teach you that.
So, given the current climate we're in, right? How much more important is getting attention, marketing, advertising now than before?
Well, it's competitive. It's always been just as important, but now it's more competitive because you are literally competing with bankruptcies. You're competing with Neiman Marcus goes bankrupt or whatever that headline may be. And attention is attention. It's not like people have a percentage of their attention allocated specifically for business opportunities. They just have attention, like what they're willing to pay attention to. And so if Trump tweets something, you're now competing with that. Like people think you're competing against your competitors. No. You're competing with grabbing someone's eyeball and saying something worthwhile. That's more important than the fact that they just lost, 100% of the value of their 401k. That's what you're competing with. And people forget that. So, I always say, like, you have to entertain and you have to meet the customer where they're at. But like, if you just have the same message, you're going to be right now. Like, you have to jump in the conversation of what's happening. Like, I give the example of, like, if there's an elephant, if you see like literally a big ass elephant right here behind me, and I didn't bring it up this whole interview, what would you be thinking about the entire time?
The elephant.
The elephant. So like right now there's this elephant and people are like, hey, buy my carpets, my brand new rugs, or my blinds. I'm like, there's a elephant standing there. That's what people are doing when they're not addressing the issues at hand.
So then given that, right, how come the first thing all these businesses cut is advertising, the thing that will give them more attention?
Ignorance, inexperience, fear. Just that's it. I mean, you got to remember, like, what the majority of business owners to do. If you're doing what majority of business owners, you should be scared because 90% failed. Don't look. It's weird to me how people don't look at the math. Like, anytime I catch myself and I'm like, oh, I'm just like everybody else, I get afraid because I know the dick is coming to and smack us and we're out of here. So I don't know how. That's my podcast. My podcast is if you listen to Billy Jean's Marketing Defense the Internet, it's like, it's too much. It's too much.
Now you're offending Mike for crowd. I like it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to hit you on the forehead with it, y'all. Yeah.
So I think people in a normal climate are afraid to ask for money, right? Like I think they get really scared to ask for money. How about during a pandemic when now it's like, no, I can't ask. People don't have money. People are this. Like when you need sales, like what's your advice to those people?
Well, I think you just nailed it. As people before were afraid to ask for money. Now people have an excuse to not do it. Like people are validating their own fears. Like you weren't asking for money before, Mr. Customer. Now you feel like you have a legit reason as to why you're really not answering. It's here. People aren't afraid to ask for money. People are afraid to be embarrassed. People are afraid to be rejected. People are afraid to be judged. These aren't business problems, right? Like, but weirdly enough, it has everything to do with business. But I talk about these things called the sidelines get slaughtered, and what I mean by that is, the reason why people love to go to sporting events but not playing the game is because nobody can it to you on the sidelines.
Can't get booed.
You can't get booed. You can't get booed. You can't throw a pick. You can't lose the winning goal. You can't get anything. So you feel safe. And that's what people try and do is sit on the sideline. I'll give you some companies that did that, right? Like take Blockbuster. Remember Blockbuster? They sat on the sidelines and they saw this whole tech thing happening, et cetera. Sounded risky. Put a lot of money up. I mean, that was a big pivot, et cetera. That would have been really risky to play in that game. So they didn't. And they stayed where they were and they got slaughtered. They got murdered. They got killed. And this happens, taxi companies. Nah, I don't want to play that. I don't want to play that whole app thing. We want classic fundamentals. They got slaughtered. Sidelines get slaughtered. To me, I think it's just too risky to be on the sideline and not try. Like, and I'll give you the same example. People want to sit on the sideline with sales. Oh, I don't want to ask for money during a pandemic, et cetera. Okay, what happens when you don't ask for money, but yet you have expenses? You get slaughtered. Like, so to me, the risk, the fear for me all comes from not doing. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like you're going to be judged regardless.
And it goes back to the advertising side that we were just talked about a second before.
And real quick, too, just like you're going to be judged regardless. So be judged doing something ambitious. Not hiding like a,
Good point. People who cut advertising costs and then say they want more customers. Well, how are they going to find those customers?
Nonsense. It's nonsense. It's nonsense.
What are the biggest mistakes you see people make when it comes to sales?
Trying to convince someone to do anything. For example, like I'll ask you to buy something and the objection I want you to tell me is that you got to talk to your wife. All right. So, hey, Jason, would you like to buy this? I
got to talk to my wife first.
Come on, Jason. You don't need to talk to your wife, dude. Jason, come on, man. Like, you're successful. You got a podcast. And hey, Jason, come on, man. You don't got to talk to your wife. Just do it. Come on. Give me your credit card. Do it. That is the mistake when it comes to sales. Is you're trying to push somebody to do something. No one, like, and people see like TV and they think that's what being a good salesperson is. The best salespeople are the best question askers. Simple. And when you can ask great questions, you can lead someone to a decision. You still control the conversation. You can still guide the outcome, but you want them to find that path, what feels like themselves. So when you tell me that you like talk to your wife, instead of getting frazzled, say, hey, I love the fact that you communicate with your wife. Number one, I compliment you. Okay. And the second thing I would ask you is, hey, what specifically would you like to ask her? And now you're like, well, and you're going to tell me your real objection, because obviously you were just giving me some about having to talk to your wife. And that's the other thing is buyers are liars and liars are buyers. Never forget that, y'all. And what that means is when somebody tells you that they're going to buy and like they get on the phone with you, they're probably lying. They come in there and they're just hyping, they're going to kick tires, etc. But never forget, liars are buyers. We've all had an experience where someone comes on and says, look, I'm just letting you know, Jason, I'm not going to buy today. You know, I'm not in the market. I wasn't really thinking about this. And then at the end of it, they end up swiping their card because liars are buyers. So, you know, never believing the customer. I got to talk to my significant other. Well, it's just too much. No, you just did a job and they weren't excited to get your product or service, period.
Love it. Love all this. So when it comes to selling online, which you're really, really good at through
Game Boy behind you?
It's a Game Boy, the original iPod, my original action figures.
Yeah, that shit is sick. I forgot about Game Boy. Remember Game Boy? That was fire.
And the Sega Game Gear. Where is it? Right here.
Is it Game Gear too?
Game Gear.
Yeah, I had both. Yeah, there you go. Shout out to
that. When it comes to selling online versus in person, how does the sales process change in your mind?
It doesn't. I mean, 97% of my clients have been online in different countries. Now, you know, almost 100,000 students, 75 countries. Very few people are in San Diego. I'll tell you how it changes is being in person takes a lot more time. I want to ask questions and get lunch after, etc. You know, I did that for a minute and the amount of the inefficiency that came was insane. You know, you come into a meeting, you have an agenda, you have a clear deadline and a hard stop time, and you know exactly what's going to be accomplished and who's participating. You know, and playing any other games outside of that, it's a sign of a lack of how much is not going on. I can tell someone about their business typically because of how much time they have. Like when I come in and someone's like, oh, well, I don't know, I'm unsure, and they're just like thinking, I'm like, I know you're broke. Busy people don't have time to waste. Like I already know you are. Like you just it's like I got to do. I ain't like don't hit me. You know, like you can always tell.
What I meant more was like with advertising, for example, I find most people just throw out real world sales tactics. For example, like they just go with the buy my stuff without building any rapport or following the real world sales process.
Yeah, that's a good point. So to me, I mean, the game is if you can solve a problem for someone, they will likely buy from you. Like that's how you win them over is you solve a problem for them. You know, so let's say, for example, your Game Boy behind you, the screen was cracked. And I was like, yo, I can fix it for you. And I fixed it for you. And then I was like, hey, your Game Gear screen is also cracked. Like, do you want to buy that? You would be way more likely to get it. Like, so I always just say, like, how can you deliver the results in advance? How can you give somebody that micro win? How can you give them that perspective shift first? And then offer them to buy. Now, here's a big misconception here. Some people believe that process has to take like a month, a week, that you have to jab forever. That's stupid. You can, you know, or people give the example of like, hey, you know, what would happen if you just went up to a girl and just kissed her? You know, like that's what you're doing when you ask people for sale. And I'm like, well, if you have game, if you just go up to a girl and kiss, you should kiss you back. She'll kiss you back. Like now, for most people, that won't be the result because most people don't have game. Most people lack confidence. Most people don't know what to say. So my point is every people will buy your right away. 100%. Not all. Most will not, but some will. But to do that, you have to know exactly what to say and you have to have a really good trade. And there's a lot of psychology, practice, and mastery that comes with it. So, you know, for most people, a big follow-up is going to be critical because you haven't yet acquired the skills to get it on the first try.
And how much of it comes down to trust? I mean, like if they were 1,000% convinced you could solve my problem, they'd hand you their credit card today, right? They'd hand you the credit card on the
People
spot.
only don't buy because they don't believe you. Simple as that. If they believed you, they would buy. It's that deal. Like, for example, if you're like, hey, Billy, my services are fucking $100,000, but I will make you $1 million. And I believe that with $1 billion% conviction, even if I didn't have $100,000, I would find a way to give it to you. I'd rob a bank. I'd do whatever I needed to do some exchange for some change. Wouldn't really matter. I would find a way to make it happen to get it because I know I would be getting more. Or the example that I love to give is, price objections. So I have a Lamborghini, pretty douchey, but it's cool. And if I said, hey, John Doe, you can buy my Lamborghini for 10 G's, they'd be like, okay, I'm in. However, if John Doe said that they had $0 in their bank account, you tell me, Jason, if they could get my Lamborghini for $10,000, would they still find a way to come up with the money?
100%.
Because they believe me, because they know once they take the Lamborghini, they can flip it and make, 20 times more. They know that. And as a result, if they know that, you know what I'm saying? So my point is, when people tell you price objection, what they really tell you, it's just not worth it. It's not worth them borrowing money. It's not worth them asking somebody else. It's not worth them getting a credit card. It's not worth it. That's what they're saying.
It's not a price objection. It's a value objection.
That's all there ever is.
So I own an agency. I see a ton of ads and a ton of content. You do a phenomenal job at what you do. What advice do you have for those who want to create content to sell themselves or their service?
Man, just be imperfect sales. Imperfection sells. I wish I had it on me. One of my students, this is probably my favorite case study. This just happened yesterday. And we were in a workshop last week in my School of Genius. And I told her she teaches women how to shoot guns. And I said, well, people want that right now. People are afraid. People want to be secured. What a great time. And I was like, you need to do an ad. And I just said, what are their biggest problems? And she's like, well, they're afraid to go outside. They're afraid to sleep at night, especially if they're single. What if someone breaks in? They feel vulnerable. I'm like, I totally get it. And as a man, I don't understand it like a woman would, right? And I was like, dude, you solve a big problem. So put up an ad. And she's, nervous. Well, what do I say? And I was like, just say exactly that. Hey, if you're a woman and you're in this situation and you'd like to feel more comfortable, just say that. And then ask them if they want to come shoot. And she's like, all right. And I was like, so we wrote it out. So she sends me the ad, and the ad, she does it in a day on her cell phone, mind you. And she sends me the ad, and she's reading in the ad. Imagine reading in the ad. She's reading in the ad. You don't see that. She's reading, and you can tell she's reading because she's talking here. And then she'll look down and then look back at the camera and she'll look down. This is what she does. So I'm like, cool, run it. Whatever, test it. She spends $25 on it. She gets 4 leads and closes 1, and that person brings a referral. And it's my favorite case study because all of and overthinking and the needing to be perfective and keeping up with the Instagram Jones is stupid. She put out an ad that took her, a couple hours to do. And she was nervous as hell. She had every fear and every insecurity that any other human being would have. And she put it out. And she read her script. She read it. And it still worked. It was my favorite thing.
It's also relatable, right? I mean, you want to, we have a phenomenon of wanting to watch people rise, right? There's people don't realize that. People want to be that celebrity who's already made it. But those people made it. I think there's something in watching
people love the journey. People love the journey. I got people who've been like, Billy, I've been following your content for 6 years. And those people, they're 10 times more likely to buy. And they're, we get along, typically really well. And people appreciate the journey because it's the trust factor, right? They've seen it.
It's a trust and relatability, right? You're up here, but I'm just starting. This is the difference I have.
I would argue at times it's harder to sell for me now because people go, oh, yeah, it works for you because you're Billie Jean. I'm like, that's stupid. Because I wasn't. I was, but you know what I mean? So, there's challenges both ways.
I think one of the biggest objections people have when it comes to putting out content, and you said it, and this is scary what you say for people who have this fear of, you said boring puts you out of business.
Yes.
Right? Being boring puts you out of business. But now one of the biggest excuses people have is, I'm not entertaining, right? I can't create content. I'm not entertaining. So now that line scares them even more. If I perceive myself to be boring and you're telling me boring puts me out of business, how do you reconcile that?
Like this. Can you talk about something entertaining? Can a boring person talk about something entertaining? Can a boring person do something entertaining? right? It would be entertaining to watch somebody climb on top of the roof of my building and attempt to jump across the street to the other building. Now, if that person's boring, that's still entertaining to watch, right? Like, so again, you know, a lot of people try and like just come on camera and come alive and think that's it. But, you know, there's other strategies to be entertaining. Matter of fact, I would argue and say a lot of people that people watch on TV on like, you know, reality shows that you think are so entertaining are probably real boring person. But when the producer takes one person and then brings in their ex-girlfriend that they haven't seen in 4 years and says action, all of a sudden that boring person got real entertaining. So people got to kill the limiting beliefs. What it really is, they're just not being creative. You can fix that problem with practice, but a lack of creativity is the only thing that can really stop somebody, not because you're boring, just you're not really being creative enough.
So what tactical advice do you have? Like, what's the recipe for a really good video sales ad?
Use some props. Like, I got some here. Like, you know, I'd like tell a story and be like, guys, so I opened up my drawer today and I saw a mouse. Like, it's just this mouse. Like, I don't know, it's stupid. But like, or, you know, go on Amazon and get an oversized cup. You know, if I started off the ad, I said, hey, I know you're busy right now scrolling through Facebook, but like, can you take a second and have a drink with me? And then I pour out this cup. And I'm like, it's a big cup, so it may take a while. So give me a couple minutes. Like, okay, you know, go on Amazon, buy something for $2. That's that big. So leveraging props can be massive. You know, leveraging music, audiojungle.net. You can search for music by emotion, type in the word mad, get, you know, 1,000 songs that you can legally use in your ads for $7. You know, and props like box arrow. So here's what we used recently for my birthday is we just wrapped a present. And we said, hey, I got you a gift. And then I opened the box and, you know, presented it or whatever. So it's just props, being creative.
So I think,
by the way, studying creativity, like going to YouTube and see what's going viral. Go to Google Trends, type in Google Trends and see what's trending and see what's going trending and why. And mirror it and make it for your industry.
I think another reason why is people are afraid, the same reason why you talked about sales for a second, the mindset of being rejected. I think people are afraid to put themselves out there because they're going to get judged, right? Same way for sales, they're going to get judged. How do they deal with the haters? So let's talk mindset for a second, because I know if you're anything like me, I pushed off mindset for a long time. I thought it was some like bullshit woo type thing until realizing that, like, okay, study successful people. Everyone has this talk about mindset and you got to get it together. If you can for a minute, talk about the importance of mindset in terms of preparing yourself and getting over things like that.
Yeah. You know, I think it's like 50% mindset and 50% skill set. And I think you need both to succeed. But I think where people really fuck up with mindset is they're too comfortable. You know, even before mindset, I think comfort is actually the thing that stops people from doing what they need to do. And what I mean by that is, like, I think the best thing for anybody to, when they buy something or they invest into themselves, I think the best situation they could ever be in is having to need it, like needing it to work. Needing it to work. Like, I need this to work. I need this to work or I won't be able to X, Y, and Z. That's a fucking blessing. Because when you don't need it to work, you know what it does? It sits on the side. You don't use it. You don't prioritize it. So mindset, even before the mindset, put pressure on yourself. Put pressure on yourself, because the thing is, all human beings always find a way to survive. Like, when you need to do something, that's where creativity is born. Like, people will figure out a way to make it happen. When you need to figure out a way to pay your rent, you always find a way. When you need to. But when you want to do things, that's where you're. And so I'd say before even your mindset and diving in, put pressure on yourself, and you will learn things about your mindset that you didn't think was there. You will learn how creative you are. You will learn how brave you are, because all of a sudden it's like, you know, I got a 4-year-old daughter, right? So, like, I hate fire. Like, fire is hot. Like, you know, some people are like, oh, fire, and they'll lick their fingers and put out the candle. Like, I don't do that shit. I'm like blowing it from a mile back. Like, I don't fuck with fire, right? So mentally, if I try and get myself to, like, just get through that, it would be very difficult for me to do. But if I saw my daughter, and she's 4, about to go near fire, I would run through the fire and I wouldn't even think twice. I wouldn't even hesitate. Because the environment is always greater than the person. No person's ever greater than the environment, you know? So people just make it so subjective. All humans are the same, and humans are the most predictable creatures on the planet. So if you want a different action, change up your environment and raise the stakes, and you'll can learn shit about yourself you didn't know.
And then what about dealing with the haters? Was that always easy for you to deal with?
Just make need greater than the hate. Like, again, it's like, hey, I'll give you, like, when people are standing on the corner asking for money, you know what I mean? Like, there's so much judgment and there's so much hate, but it's like, dude, I got to eat. You know what I mean? I got to eat, and then also too, that's practice. That's practice and focus. That's practice focusing on the positive instead of the negative. It takes practice, conscious practice, saying aloud, empower, like literally saying, I'm choosing to focus on this. I'm not choosing to focus on that. It literally takes practice. And then the other side is understanding where a hater comes from, right? There's no hater that ever feels good. There's no hater that's ever winning. Like people who are winning don't hate, like 99.9% of the time. So when you learn and you understand them, then you just start to feel bad for them. And it's hard to get offended when you feel bad for somebody. Like, just remember that, like, when you truly empathize for someone and you understand the situation, like, it's very difficult to, like, get offended by what they say.
Or do what you do and call them out on social media.
Oh, no, I do a different level. Someone says some dumb to me, I just fucking tell. That's real fucking stupid of you to say, and I say all kinds of immature things, etc., because I use it as an opportunity to win fans.
Yeah.
I love when someone says some shit to me and then I just say some smart ass remark and then I'll get 100 comments underneath. It's like, this is with you, Billy, because of the way I handled that situation. Like, some people are like, hug your haters, my haters. Like, I'll tell them, right? And to me, it's funny. Like, when I'm going at a hater, it's because it genuinely brings me joy to crack jokes, like, and talk. And sometimes I've had plenty of people who started the hate. I'll say something funny back, then they say something funny back too, and I'm like, okay, and then they end up buying my. So, like, you know what I mean? So if someone says some real trouble, then I may have my team send them a DM, say, hey, give them for free. Someone's really having a problem or something, like they just need a hand up. But someone's just being a troll. I love to troll back.
And I'm sure that takes time and practice and getting used.
Yeah. That's why I didn't bring it up. Like, that's the different
next level. That's 3.0.
Think about, like, running ads for a decade. Like, there's no emotion to it now when someone says something. Every now and then, I guess, but very rarely. So mostly it's just opportunities to say some shit and win some fans.
Well, what about? I mean, one of the podcasts you did recently was talking about introverts and how there's no such thing. So
yes.
I want to bring attention to that for a second, because you have a lot of people. One of the things that you also said in there was excuses that we have right now. No one's buying during this time. No one's buying COVID. Just the excuses we tell ourselves. Can you elaborate on that? And just for the people who are especially at home right now and being like feeling either sorry for themselves or the situation.
Introvert, the word, is the greatest disguise and excuse that mankind has ever created for this generation. And literally, it is just a hall pass. Like, anytime anybody doesn't want to do anything uncomfortable, they just say, I'm an introvert. Like, hey, I'm gonna go to a party, there's a lot of people there. I'm an introvert. That's uncomfortable for me. Go speak on stage in front of people. I'm an introvert. Da 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 da. Like tell a joke to a stranger. I'm introverted. Da 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 da. And it's like, I'm an introvert. Go to Match.com or some bullshit, or Tinder, whatever the fuck it is now. And people are like, just an introvert. Look at me hiking. Like, shut the fuck up. No one's an introvert. You're a and you're afraid. You're afraid. You're afraid, and it's way easier and more accepted right now to say that I'm an introvert versus, hey, that scares the hell out of me, and I haven't developed the callus or the skill set to thrive in that situation yet. But when you're lying to yourself, you can't do anything about it. So telling people the truth, you know what I'm saying? Like, and I think that's just so lost, and everything's a lie. I mean, the shit we lie to ourselves about is nuts. No one's spending money right now. Do people understand mathematically? There is actually exponentially more money in the world today than there ever has been. There is more. That's the math. And they're printing money and giving it away, etc. There is more money than ever before in history. People talking about there's no money. No, the exchange of money has slowed down, which means your trade has to be better. If you want money to come your way, you gotta have a better trade. Because people are being a little stingier. You got to have a better trade. What are you trading? That's all money is. That's business. It's a trade. You do something. You give me something. I give you some money. It's a trade. That's what it is. Your trade sucks now. Change trade. Stop crying like real.
Love it. I often feel like right now, watching the marketing world that we're in right now, we just talked about it before about the gurus. I feel like most marketers are marketing to other marketers. So it's like one giant like dick measuring contest, for example, versus market towards the customers.
Right.
I don't see you getting involved in any of that marketing world. I see you actually really going out after the customers. Is that something you're consciously always aware of, being like, I don't want to join that world. Let them all fight and sell their courses to each other. I'm going to go out and help people.
Well, I mean, over doing it for a decade, you could start to see trends, right? And my whole thing is zigging when the market zags, or vice versa, right? But remember, my background is agency. So I started off doing agency work, right? And worked with some of the largest franchises in the world. So before I got into education or teaching or anything like that, I had a track record and clients to swing around to show it, and a whole bunch of case studies and everything. And so, then the education space, like, what happens is people flock to it because they just believe it's easy. They believe it's easy. And the reason why people come and then they go and everyone's got a fucking course is people see people selling courses all the time. I guarantee you 99% of them are not making money or doing probably. That's why you don't see them for long term. And so, for me, it's, my background is helping real business owners, local brick and mortar, real estate, chiropractor, gyms, massages. That's what I do. And that's who we still focus on. But I can't also ignore, the people who aren't in business yet and do legit want to learn a skill set. So we also teach that too, right? But it's just careful, and it's in our content, just addressing those things. And now as we become more well-known, and I've done so many interviews and spoken on so many stages, and we won awards and all that, now we built up a little bit more credibility to separate us from the pack, but we had to work a decade for those things, and they keep stacking. So I think the best thing for people starting off who don't have that credibility yet is just make sure that you're demonstrating instead of telling. Everybody tells people how great they are. Show them. It's why I just dropped 200 racks on a Sprinter van, to go to businesses and show up and literally take over their business and show people. So the one thing, though, I've always done to stand out for our company is when other people talk about it, we do it. Like one of our videos or ads I filmed years ago was we brought a Massage Envy 290 leads in 24 or 48 hours. And that's what we showed to attract customers, is that we really do this. And so our ads that go well is we just people up by just showing the proof. Like, and even now, like and now I'm just confident, right? Because I've done it so many times and helped so many people. It's like, I genuinely believe if you give me a small business, someone who's looking to go from $100,000 to $1 million, or even $1 million to $5 million, that would be a little more competitive. But someone who's just starting and trying to make their first $100,000, I believe if you put me in a competition with any entrepreneur on the planet, I will beat them. I genuinely believe that. Like any of them. I'm talking the Elons, etc. Now, here's the deal. Fucker knows way more shit than I did. They can play stocks and financial and an engineer and build something way better. But if we're talking about the hairstylist down the street who needs this right now at this point in my career, I will do more for that person than Elon could. But not to say, now having said that, his skill sets are way more valuable, right? Like, I'm not, ridiculous, like blind to that. But you give me the hairstylist, you give me the real estate agent, there's no one better on the planet. I genuinely believe that, because I've just done it more than anybody.
But not only that, I think as a marketer, right, and even your agency life, right, what I'm experiencing right now is I see the back end of so many different businesses. Exactly. The questions you got to ask are your profit margins, all this factor into marketing. I know the ins and outs of almost every business. I think through the agency life, I've actually become a better business person than I become a marketer.
100%. And I feel the same way, man. And when you get so much data, you start to get it. And again, there's no industry, there's no people. It's just this math, and you just start to get it. And yeah,
it's the numbers. I'm still amazed though, that for local businesses, especially, that you have to convince them social media advertising is the way to go. And yeah. We're investing in it. And, they'll pay $1,500 for a new phone, for example, but when it comes to spending $1,500 on advertising, that's too expensive.
Well, it's the Shark Tank effect and the other things where people, they see people get rich essentially overnight, you know what I'm saying? And they outside looking in, they see a product and they're like, all they did is get rich is to create a sponge, and they just put all these assumptions, and also the miseducation that school gives. When you think about, I went to the University of San Diego and went through the business administration program there. Like, when you go through all those things, you really do think business is that easy, because they never talked about what business really is. Like, attracting a customer is really hard. Generating a phone call, like getting someone to call you and doing that affordably, is very difficult. And then talking to a stranger, not a referral, a true stranger, and getting them to get money, that's very difficult. Those things take skills. But you tell me, who's teaching how to do that? It's weird. And I think that's how we look at the marketplace, and we're like, we're going to be the gap. We are, like, and that's what we obsess about.
Or that there's an end result, right? Like, Go here, start your work, start a job, and then that's it. It's done. Versus, I don't know about jobs. I haven't had a job in a while, except for aside from owning the business. But I know that every day my business changes. So the benchmark, the goal mark always moves. There is no end result yet.
Yeah, that's kind of like about college. Is like it's like you're saying, it's the finish line. There is no finish line to learning. I remember like being on graduation day, which I didn't finish my last class, but I still went to ceremony. Long story, but I just remember thinking like, I'm never going to school again. I'm never doing this again. And like that was such a poisoned mindset, and that's what most people have because we're really looking at it as a piece of paper versus acquiring skill sets, and that's just a big mistake.
But why is it that for entrepreneurship, right? A doctor doesn't sit there and say, "Oh, I'm going to go buy a $300 course. I'm going to study and I'm going to become a doctor." And boom, I'm in. They understand.
Yeah.
They have to
go. I'm going to spend 12 years and spend $300,000 in your residency.
Exactly. So why entrepreneurs believe that I'm going to buy a course and I'm going to go out?
It's just ignorance. It's bad press. It's everyone showing the end result and not the journey. And now that social media, we have it, people will see more of the journeys and that will start to be dissipated. That won't be as popular. But right now it needs to be shot. And then it doesn't help the fact that you get half stories, right? So you hear these companies that go public and they become trillionaires overnight, et cetera. And they're the 0.00000000001%. But they also forget to tell you about the 3 companies that they started before that. And so you hear the headline stats like 18 months to, $30 million. But they don't say the 18 years of eating ass and like whatever the hell, like, you know what I mean? They don't say all those things. So
I saw a really good post the other day. I forget who posted it, but it was pretty much like named all the artists, like Beyonce and all these people, and how many #1 hits they had versus the number of songs they have. And it's like number one, 24% of her songs were #1 hits. So that means she's failed. 76% weren't popular, but we write one blog post and no one reads it and we quit.
Yeah, and that's the thing, man, is like we love to overcomplicate entrepreneurship. It's just asking people to buy go over and over again. That's
and you're a big believer of that, right? The person who asks the most gets the most.
It's math. It's just math,
I love it. Let's talk about, you launched recently the 30-day challenge, right? If you had nothing and you have to start from scratch. Why was that so important for you to do?
Because our other message was falling on deaf ears. And so like you said in the beginning, it's like, hey, when there's a decline or downturn in the economy, people tend to cut their marketing budget because they believe it's an elective and it's optional and it's something that they do to play defense out of fear. Well, my whole thing of like create ads, if I just keep saying the message with the elephant in the room, hey, create ads, it wasn't working, wasn't converting as well. So I had to find out what the marketplace needed. And I posted on Instagram organically. And I just said, if I started all over and I had, 30 days to make 10 G's, who wants a copy? And I had like 1,500 people comment almost immediately. And I said, oh, that's it. And so I made it. And let me tell you, it was not fun. Some of it was exciting in the beginning. It was fun to see the impact. But dude, it was literally every single day for 30 days, me filming literally every single day, planning every single day, my team. And, it was an insane amount of work. But I'm super happy we did it. And it's the best reviewed thing I've ever created in my entire life. And we got more wins in that thing than I don't know what. I mean, it was insanely worth it, but it was a lot of work. But now we can leverage that asset and we can continue to sell it again and again and again and again. And I don't have to record every single day because now it's done. So, yeah.
And how many people join?
5,000, 6,000.
No. And I'm saying, and versus complaining because there's work involved and thinking that they were just going to sign up and get something.
Yeah. I mean, there's you say how many people join? You cut out.
I'm saying people join, right? I'm always fascinated by this when people join something and then you give, let's say, homework or something to do, and then like, oh man, this doesn't work.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely see that, right? Like I set expectations of every single day I'm going to send you an assignment so people knew, but you definitely see the drop off, right? Like from the 30 days to day one, the 3, everybody's like, oh, I'm hyped, best shit ever, and then you start to see it trickle, and then you see the people who stayed strong, and then you see the envy of the people catching up. Day 12, people are like, boom, made 500, boom, made 1,000, boom, made this, and then the other people are like, wait, what you guys kept going and I quit, and they get back on the track. So you see the cycle. It's very human.
I want to end here. And then if you're okay with it, we got a couple of questions.
Yeah, that's cool.
If someone's going to listen to this and sit there and say, all right, cool, I'm going to make my first video ad. This guy is telling me to make my first video ad. What are the 3-5 elements that they got to have in their ad?
Be able to explain what you're selling in one sentence, and a 5th grader needs to understand it. That's the biggest thing. Most people can't clarify it. That's why it's impossible to sell. Second thing is who. Who is most likely to buy it? Don't try and sell to everyone at the same time. Figure out an industry. Third thing is 3 problems that they're facing. That ideal customer, what are the 3 biggest problems that they're facing that your product or service solves? Then the last part is the call to action, which is, hey, the irresistible offer. Hop on the phone with me and I'll help you solve one of these problems. Click here and I'll help you solve one of these problems, blah, blah, and I'll help you solve these problems. That's the call to action. And then the last component to that is urgency or scarcity. Hey, I'm only one person, so I can only do this for so many people. Hey, limited time only because of X, Y, and Z, but make it true, right? And find the reason. There's always a reason to go faster, and that's it. So for example, if you're a real estate agent, right, and you're advertising and you're trying to find first-time home buyers, right? So then you may shoot an ad and say, hey, if you're a first-time home buyer, or hey, if you and your wife, if you decided to advertise to a couple, if you and your wife are deciding to look for a home right now, but you're unsure, is this the right time because of everything that's going on? Then here's what you need to know. Right. Or, hey, if you're, looking to buy your first time home for the first time, but you're wondering right now how much money you're going to need to be put down, what's your interest rate going to be? What are the safest areas to buy a house in when you have children under 3? Well, here's the answer. By the way, if you'd like to hop on a call and me to show you exactly what your interest would be or exactly, some shit like that.
Do you find most people miss that call to action? They just provide the value and then just leave it?
Yeah. Because they're afraid to ask. Ask for, don't get put in the friend zone. Worst thing that entrepreneurs do, where they're just trying to give so much value and just fucker calls you one day and says, here's my card. That's not how winners play. You're not just, you ever seen the winners play? Jordan says, give me the ball. Kobe says, give me the ball. LeBron says, give me the ball. They don't just sit on the heels waiting for a fucking pass. They demand the ball. Ask money. Or if not, you end up putting out 60 days of content. And then when you do, they're offended. Oh my God, 60 days. You too. Now you're like that Billie Jean guy. You're asking for money. They forget that you got bills to pay. So ask. And by the way, nobody cares that you ask them to buy. They only care about how you ask them to buy. Because if you made them laugh and you made them smile, it would never offend them. Remember that. If you made them laugh, you never smile. Same goes with dating, right? It's not it's only offensive if the girl doesn't like you, right? If you ask a girl, multiple times, right? It's oh, he pursued me. It was classic. It was old school. It was so romantic. But if she doesn't like you, it's you're harassing me. Please
You're
stop.
a stalker.
Yeah, so the how is important.
It's funny. Someone actually posted that on Twitter, being like, "Man, this guy's creepy." I'm like, unless you found him attractive.
Exactly, 100%.
And then he'd be passionate.
Yeah, that's real.
Right. All right. Let's take a couple of questions. When you first started out, how was your first approach to client outreach?
Videos. I had a lot of limiting beliefs. I was 20-something, 23 or whatever. And I was selling to middle-aged white dudes, who owned franchises. So they were college educated, articulate and all those things. And so to me, when I came to the table and I didn't have a bunch of experience, I had to lead with proof. So I would make short little videos and I would build out their entire advertising campaigns in advance. And I'd say, this is what I'd like to do for you. Let me know. And because I was the only one presenting it like that, I won. Again, goes back to show them, not tell them, right? Yeah, nothing sounds like proof.
What were your tactics around building value on sales calls?
Building value on sales calls?
What are your tactics around building value, I guess, for yourself?
Just classic sales 101 stuff, just like bridge. So, for example, here's your customer. Here's where they are. Identify where they want to be. What's the result that they've never accomplished before? Where they want to go? Is that to get a 6-pack or make $1 gazillion or have their dream relationship? Identify what are the challenges that have been stopping them. What's life going to be like when they hit them, and then positioning your product or service to get them across the bridge to the place they've never been. It's always the same thing.
Awesome. Billy, I've been through your remarketing funnel via email. You definitely know how to stay in touch with your leads. My question is, for a company that doesn't have an in-house marketing department, how can we fully take advantage of your services? The time it takes to create all the content and deploying it is a big pain point for us.
Well, most of the time, if that's the case, you don't need all the that I use. Right? I got 30 mouths to feed. I better have some retargeting if everybody's going to eat. But when I was first starting off, the answer is I didn't. If you're a small business, the only thing that you should have is an ad that asks people to get on the phone and then close them on the phone. And every single time you get a lead, you should obsess about them and call them as many times as needed and text them an email. That's the only follow-up system that you need. You know, somebody said they were spending like $25 a month and they wanted to have all this or $25 a day. They wanted to have all this retargeting and shit. I'm like, how many leads are you getting? They're like 3 or 4 leads a day. I'm like, call them. Like, you want to retarget? Call them. Like, literally pick up your cell phone and text message them right now. So there's no automation that's needed in that. It's called that. And by the way, there's nothing, if you're not hitting your sales goals or where you guys are at, there's nothing to do besides to advertise and to sell. So I don't want to hear anybody talk about there's no time. That means you're being really inefficient doing dumb shit that doesn't make you money. The only thing there is to do is to advertise and to sell. And then the customers that you have, keep them happy. And if you're like, well, my customers that I have are taking so much time, I don't have time to advertise or sell, then you oversold a package that you couldn't deliver on out of noviceness. That's what happens, is you sold a whole thing where you literally should just be selling one thing. And you need to counsel on those people and or you're going to forever live in that back and forth game.
Yeah, I was on a call today where we actually talked about there's only 2 currencies, right? There's time and money. It's the only 2 ways you pay for things. And so people were like, oh, I grew this organically. You actually paid a price for it, right? You paid with time. Yep. So I guess most people, if they could afford to, would you recommend that they hack the time? Is time more important to you than money?
I mean, here's the thing. Well, time you can't get back. It's the, like money. What would they say? It's the most replenishable energy source in the world. You can always more money. But the game is like, you spend the money because you can make a lot more. That's how you go fast. Like, you advertise not just to shortcut it because it's an expense, but if you're advertising and you spend $100 in advertising today, but you make $300 in sales, did that actually cost you money? Or did you make money? And that is the obsession. That's the game. And that's the disconnect with most entrepreneurs, is they don't realize that, because they don't realize you can spend so quickly and make money back so quickly. And that's what I spend a lot of time as CEO on, is that equation.
Billy, can you repeat those points? I think they're talking to the points that go into a good video ad.
Or the bridge. They're probably talking about the bridge. Or is it? Well, you tell me. You would know, but you can see.
I think it's the video ad.
So the video ad is 1 sentence, what you're selling, clarity. Second is audience, who's most likely to buy. Third, what are their greatest pains that they're facing. 4, call to action, offer to solve some of those pains for free to get them on the phone or whatever, or person, however you sell. And then 5 is the urgency or scarcity to get them to take action right now to actually become a lead. Hey, I'll throw in this free, I'll send you this free, I'll talk for whatever that's going to get them excited. Those are the 5 steps.
All right, Billy, thank you so much for doing this. I'm going to end by giving you the platform for a second by saying, if you had the ability, let's say this podcast could hit every single entrepreneur and business person on the planet, what would you say to them right now?
Ask for money every single day, and ask as many times a day. And when you understand how to do that in a cost-effective way, you will scale. And literally, that should be everyone's obsession. Like, just think right now, take your metrics as is in your business. If you ask 1,000 people to buy a day, how would that change your life? And if you ask people on average, how, last year, how many people you asked to buy a day, I bet you that number is close to 0. And now you know why you made that amount of money, because you did not ask enough people. And then what you realize is there's tools to ask people. There's emails, there's advertising, there's Facebook, there's Instagram, there's YouTube, there's Craigslist, and the more you can stack those, that's how you scale. That's how you go faster. So the name of the game is asking people to buy and streamlining the service in such a way where you can repeat that again and again. Simplification, sell one thing. No such thing as $1 million idea, just $1 million execution. So stop obsessing about the idea, and you can make $1 million. I can make $1 million selling this. I can make $1 million selling this. There's no value in that. It's all in the execution. So your idea. Unless you're like an engineer, like some super techie, that but even then you're going to need a partner to sell your idea. All right.
Love it. For those who want to reach out to you, how can they find you?
Billy Genius Marketing offends the internet every Monday to Friday. Mornings we drop in. I think we drop our episodes at midnight, but when you wake up, it's going to be right there sitting for you. Listen to the podcast and follow me on Instagram, Billy Genius Marketing. Again, it's wildly inappropriate, massively entertaining, and it will make you money if you do what I say.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time and offending my crowd and on your mission to offend the internet. Thank you so much, Billy.
Hey, thanks for having me, brother.